very good morning to Dr. Radhika, and we from Amity Education Group welcome you. Very good morning to our dear participants. Today is our last day of the capacity building program. To make it more exciting, we have planned a very important session on science, technology, and innovation policy 2020. Going forward to our session of the day, let me have a privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Radhika Tarika. Dr. Radhika is presently working as a senior policy fellow at DST Center for Policy Research at IISc Bangalore and jointly hosted by Department of Science and Technology DST. She is a member of Science, Technology and Innovation Policies Secretariat established by DST Government of India. She is a part of the editorial team of the India's fifth National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy Draft. She has previously worked as Senior Scientist D, Senior Scientist C, and Postdoctoral Fellow in DST CPR at Punjab University, Chandigarh. Her policy research domain is incentivization of private sector, R&D, and public-private partnership models for R&D, nationally and internationally. During her doctoral work, she has also awarded with DST Inspire Fellowship. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much. We again welcome you on behalf of Amity Education Group. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Shefali. And first of all, my heartfelt thanks to you for giving me an opportunity to discuss about science, technology, and innovation. Of course, STI is the new pillar for socio-economic growth of the country, both societal growth, economic growth, and the overall competitiveness of the country. And on this verge, India, like we have a national call for Atmanirbhar Bharat, and STI is one of the essential pillars to make a self-reliant India. And this time we have come up with the India's fifth National Science, Technology, Innovation Policy. We are hoping it would be rolled out as an official policy of the India. Still, it is with the cabinet note. So we are hoping it would be soon out in the public. It has many exciting policy recommendation, exciting some of the policy directives, especially for boosting the education, for boosting the research right at the school level, how to popularize science, make it more attractive for the younger generation. I'm sure the policy, once it is out, as national education policy is already started rolling out, similarly STI will cater to the educational institutes, research institutes, industry, our grassroots innovators, our NGOs, and our MSME startups. It's catering to every stakeholder of an STI ecosystem. So I'll just share.
Yeah. Sorry, ma'am. Before starting your presentation, I would ask you one question only. I will not waste much time because I know our participants are very excited today. They want to listen more from you. But recently, DST has also has come up with this EOI, expression of interest, on the CPR.
Right.
So, what is your say on that?
All right. So this is a very good opportunity. 20th is the last day to apply for the expression of interest. And I hope so, Amity, being doing such a wonderful work in innovation domain, you have applied for an expression of interest to DST for this. So like we started with the Center for Policy Research way back in 2014 under the PM cabinet approval that there should be certain policy research centers created in India that will create evidences on which policy would be formulated. So this is very important that we need to have a strong evidences. If we compare India ecosystem with the global ecosystem, what is happening in US, what is happening in Europe, how these countries have excelled in STI, they are the innovation champions, what can be adapted in India. So we need to generate evidences. On those evidences, we further lead to decision making, like the highest policy makers, the ethics officials, they take decision on those evidences. To create that capacity of carrying out an STI innovation or a mapping study, what you call, to understand what are the challenges, what are the gaps in science, technology, innovation in our country. Like we are more prone towards our traditional knowledge and how we are going to extract maximum from our indigenous communities, how we are going to produce modernization and innovation. So all these aspects, we need certain evidence, we needs certain kind of studies to be carried out in this domain. So DST started with, there were earlier 5 centers for policy research, out of which 3 at present are working. Due to some of the reasons, administrative reasons, they were closed down. But now DST is again open an opportunity where more of such innovation studies, technology studies can be carried out. And these centers would be directly funded by DST for initial 3 to 5 years, in which they will set up a capacity who can carry out specific policy related studies, like in startup ecosystem. There are upcoming fields like science communication, open access to science. These are new fields that are coming up, science diplomacy. So there, the government will give you a kind of a funding support, a seed support, in which you will build a capacity who will carry out such innovative studies, technology studies, on based on which the STI trajectory, the map for the country would be built. So there are 2 exciting opportunities that are coming up. First is this expression of interest, which will be totally funded by DST for initial 3 to 5 years. That would be, you would be set up as a center for policy research. The other option that is still available, as some of the institutes like Amity itself is doing up innovation studies in a social science and humanity group, IITs are doing. So they can also apply for a satellite center. They can get a government recognition in which a funding support won't be there, but kind of an accreditation and recognition directly from the government would be there. And the satellite center for policy research will directly work with DST. Like DST, we are presently working in connecting all the states and UTs in terms of science, technology, and innovation system, and what feedback they want from the center government, what support they want. So there are certain kind of agenda moments that DST has started in line with the policy. Like when I will discuss about the policy, we'll come to know there are so many new policy directions that we have recommended. So for that, DST has already started with an action plan, and we have started working on those lines. And these satellite centers, like last week, I had an interaction with Ashoka University. So they have a initiative for policy studies, and they are really looking forward to get a government accreditation. So we have given them an option of having a tag of satellite center of a DST, in which you will give all the government support in terms of networking, in terms of accreditation and recognition, as the DST accredited Center for Policy Research as a satellite center. One is the core that you have come across, the expression of interest thing. So that is the core center for policy research. The other option is having a satellite center with DST. So this way we are going to create a new domain in science field. Like we have botany, we have zoology. We do not talk about having a new field like science policy. It itself is a field. So with this vision, we are trying to create a network and capabilities and capacity for science policy in India.
Yeah, great, ma'am. I think there is a lot to learn from you, and we will surely be sharing this session with all our faculty members of Amity University, so that they may also come to know about the satellite center, CPR, AOI, expression of interest, which has recently been announced by DST. So going forward, let's not waste our time, and I don't want to intervene in between our participants, because they are excited and they are waiting about this session. So, ma'am, over to you, please. Let's begin with our session today, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Just let me know when you see my screen.
Surely, ma'am. Surely.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it clearly. Yes,
okay.
now it is fine.
Okay, I'll just go back to the first slide. Yeah, I've put on share screen. Is it fine?
Yes, it is absolutely fine, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Shefali, once again. And thanks to the Amity Institute of Training and Development, Amity University, for giving this opportunity to share and deliberate on our 5th National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy. I'm sure you all will get like certain starting points. Like I started my career as a biotechnologist. I was always keen to pursue biotechnology. I did my bachelor's, master's in biotechnology, and then I came into PhD with microbial biotechnology. And after my PhD, I realized that more than a research, I am more inclined towards studying how a research, how a technology development, how a science is being administered. And then I got an opportunity to enter a field of science policy. It's a very nascent field still in India, and we are trying to build capacity. Those trainees who are joining us today, they can look up to the new fellowship programs that are coming up in science technology for 1 year, for 2 year. You can opt for those programs. I myself joined as a postdoctoral fellow in science technology and innovation fellowship program that started by DST, and I'm presently enrolled as a senior policy fellow in this domain. And here we are studying about how science, technology, and innovation ecosystem works, and what all gaps are there, what are the new aspiration, what are the new opportunities, and how a policy directives can help. So with this, I start with my presentation with you all. So the outline for my presentation is that firstly, I'll discuss certain kind of a status parameters where India is standing in terms of science, technology, and innovation. And then we'll discuss about the 4 previous policies that, as I mentioned, right now we are at the 5th science, technology, and innovation policy framework. So what were the 4 previous policies and what were the directions that were given by those policies? Then we will try to understand why at this crucial time, when we are fighting the pandemic, when we are hoping to create an indigenous and technology development and Atmanirbhar Bharat, why we need an STI policy, and how the STI policy was formulated, what was the formulation process. It's a very exciting process in which the science, technology, and innovation policy was formulated, and what are the key recommendations and what were the consultations that we have heard. Like, I'll share all those things with you, and what is the overall vision of STIP and certain future implementation plans that we have rolled out recently. So with this, I first come to about the science, technology, and innovation ecosystem in India. Let's first discuss what are the recent successes that we, as a innovative country, we have achieved. So in terms of having a gross expenditure on R&D, how much of our government, how much of our nation is spending exclusively on R&D, we have increased by many times, and 3 times in the last 10 years. That shows that government is quite keen towards investing in R&D. And then our per capita R&D expenditure, it has also got doubled in last 10 years. And you would be really happy to know that India is the 6th largest country in the world who is investing in R&D. So I'll show that graph to you in the next slide, in which what is the India position. In fact, India is the only developing country who has backed that position. So when we talk about number of publications, we are 3rd globally after US and China in terms of publication. And that value changes with, like, sometimes we were 2nd last year. So we are almost in top 5 in terms of how many publications are being generated by an Indian authors. Then in terms of quality of these publications, we globally stand at 9th position. In terms of how many PhDs are being generated, we are in 3rd position, and we are the 3rd largest education system next to US and China in the world. And India has done magnificently well in terms of startups. So we are 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world, and 4th in terms of unicorn. So what we mean by unicorn, when a startup reaches at some level of a revenue that is about 100 million, then they enter into a domain of unicorn. So when startup gets huge, it is termed as a unicorn. So we are like 4th in terms of having unicorns in the country. That shows that how startups have done wonders, and they have reached a specific mark or a threshold to enter into a unicorn list. Then in terms of resident patent filing, we are ninth in number. Recently, we have come across the Global Innovation Index report, and we are very proud that we are standing at the 48th position. Way back in 2015, we were at 81st position. In last 5 years, we have like jumped around 30 places, more than 30 places in terms of Global Innovation Index. And we are progressively seeing women participation is increasing in science, technology, and innovation, exclusively in R&D. And there are a huge number of people who are joining us as an R&D personnel. They are taking up an R&D as a field. So these are certain kinds of parameters on which we, like globally, these parameters are used to judge the innovation ecosystem of a particular country. And India is like, has in past 10 years, it has shown a magnificent improvement in its technology and innovation ecosystem. Okay, so this is the data that I have taken from our government website, from the DST only. So DST has a dedicated unit that is known as NSTMIS, that is National Systematic Unit for Information and Statistics. Here it's clearly shown that from past few years, there is a continuous trend of increasing number of investments made up for R&D. That's how we describe our Indians' R&D expenditure. In terms of GDP, that is known as gross expenditure in R&D. Now, if I show you the next slide, so here you clearly see that what is the positioning of India among the top innovative countries of the world. Next to US, China, Japan, Germany, South Korea, India is there as a sixth largest R&D spending country in the world, with 68.2 parts per million billion contribution towards the R&D. But the other sad part, if you can locate here, what is the sad part here? Now, when we talk about the contribution of whole government domestic product, gross domestic product towards R&D, India's positioning is only 0.6. The bars that are marked black in color, they specify what is the gross expenditure of domestic product into an R&D. So India is the least in that, that is 0.6. And from past 10 years, we are hoping and aspiring that this will rise to 2% of GDP at least. Why we are not able to, there are certain challenges that while making this policy, we have identified industries are not coming forward in terms of investing in R&D. There are certain other challenges that we will further discuss while I'll walk through the presentation. So, but the core challenge that India is facing, on which our STI policies also laying more emphasis, is the low contribution of the whole gross domestic product towards an R&D. If we will increase in GRD for our country, then only we can aspire to be a enhanced and reinvigorated science, technology, and innovation ecosystem. So the second challenge that we are facing, if we compare the full-time equivalent, that means how many of the researchers as per the total population of the country are working. So here in India, the level is increasing from past 10 years, but still we are lacking behind as compared to the major innovative countries. We don't have full-time equivalent researchers working in our country that much. And in order to increase the 2% of GDP to GERD, we need to enhance the FTE. That is one of the very crucial attribute that we study while calculating the research ecosystem in the country. How many manpower is actually working full-time in the research? So we need to enhance that, and for that we need to bring up the private sector in this for right sizing of FTE base. So this colorful bubbles, if you see, if you try to identify where India is. So here what we are showing is that the countries which are performing good at innovation, they have a huge bubble, and that bubble shows how many of the FTE per million people is existing. As you can see, United States have a very big bubble. France has, China has, Brazil has, Switzerland, Japan, South Korea, they have a large bubble. So there is high density and high investment that is happening, but India is not able to match to the China or to the United States, at least in comparison to China, because our population is in comparison. And why cannot we produce so much of researchers as compared to that is being produced in China? So that is one of the thing that we need to understand, and we fall into a bracket of a low investment country. So there is a less investment in R&D as such, and we need to enhance that investment, though, and then only we can bring this bubble of India towards the upper side, at least to the high investment side. So this resembles the India's position in FTE. So we are increasing in some of the parameters, like for startups, we are doing good. We're increasing an R&D as compared to what we were doing in 10 years, but that is not sufficient. We need to bring exclusive R&D contribution in the country to strengthen the science, technology, and innovation ecosystem. Moving ahead, what our future holds, what we are trying to, while formulating this policy, there were certain parameters that we thought that should be introduced in India, so that our India's future R&D looks more tempting and more progressive. Like we need to bring a core difference between what is profound research and what is incremental research. We need to make our research quite profound, that is, it's quite relevant to our local regional problems, and incremental, that it should add in value to it. And we need to enhance the risk taking ability also, to finally reach to a level of producing a profound and incremental research. So the R&D grant system, it should be more performance oriented, where we call as in KPI oriented. The key performance indicators should be carried out. The grant system in our country should be more competitive as such. There should be more short-term mission-made projects in post-COVID scenarios. This COVID has brought out loads of challenges that India is facing, specifically in healthcare sector. And after post-COVID, there are loads of economic problems that we are going to face. And for that, we should be ready with mission-made projects in which direct thematic areas should be picked up and solutions for them should be built. We need to increase FTA. For that, why we say that FTE is low, because most of the researchers, they are not retaining for as a full-time job in field of R&D. So for that, we need to bring out exciting opportunities for students, and specifically for our young scientists who like we are facing a problem of brain drain. We need to bring the brain drain culture to the brain gain and brain circulation in India. So we need to create certain kind of incentives. We say that industry is not coming forward to participate in national R&D ecosystem. So let's create some incentives for private investments for right sizing of FTE. We need to focus more on a quality and relevance of an R&D. Like instead of quantitative approach, we need to bring up what quality and what impact it is being generated. And then a new focus that the Prime Minister has done a clarion call for every national educational institute and research institute is to create an Atmanirbhar Bharat. How science, technology, and innovation will produce technological self-reliant India. We are not going to get dependent on the import of the technologies. Can we build these technologies in India? We need to build institutional capacity for the same. And more importantly, we need to change this concept of brain drain to brain gain. Like we like are celebrating that an Indian origin person is heading this and this institute or global organization. And now we have to look at how we can stop the exclusive brain drainage from our country and retain them back in the country. So these are certain kind of future implications that we have stated out. What can be a future R&D status of India? So that is the first part of my presentation, where I talked about what is the current scenario of science, technology, innovation in country, what is its global positioning and how it is performing, what are the key challenges, and what are we aspiring that our R&D ecosystem that will in turn lead to strengthening of our STI ecosystem should be there. So the topic for today is about our fifth national science policy. So now onwards, I would be sharing more of what this fifth national science technology innovation policy is all about. Before that, let's try to understand what is a science policy and how science, technology, and innovation policies are actually made in India. In fact, when I say science, technology, innovation policy, any policy, there is a set pattern how it is being prepared by our government. I'll give a snapshot for that. And then what is a kind of an institution mechanism? Do we have a specific policy institute in the country? And who are the players, who are the actors who are going to make this policy? And how an evidences flow in the whole process of policy making. So I'll take you to the journey of how science, technology, innovation was formulated, what were the policy recommendation, who were the stakeholders, how it was carried out, and then we can try to understand how a science policy works in India. So till here, anyone have any doubt we can take up, or we can take up at end of the talk? Shall I proceed then? Okay, so I'll just like here, when we talk about science policy, there are two important things that we need to focus on. First is when we say science for policy and policy for science. It's very important for us to understand what is science for policy. When we use scientific methodology and processes to design a policy, that is known as science for policy. But what is policy for science? When we are using a policy to improve or to give a direction to the science ecosystem in the country, that is policy for science. So the two terms we should be very clear when, like, the process I would be sharing with you, that is what was the science we used to design a policy. Finally, which policy? Policy that further defines science. So that was policy for science. That, in short, what we call it as a science policy. So science or methodology used for policy making is science for policy. And finally, the policy that further gives direction to how science will work, technology will work, innovation will work, that is policy for science. So as you all can see, so these are the stakeholders who take part in policy making in India. The first prime stakeholder is the government who will initiate it. When we talk about science, technology, and innovation ecosystem, the principal offices who are taking care of science, like Office of Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India, then there is Niti Aayog, they have an S&T division, then Ministry of Science and Technology, under which Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, Department of Scientific and Industrial Research come, and other scientific line ministries like Ministry of Earth Science, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Ministry of Human Resource Development, which is now Ministry of Education, as this picture is being taken by a paper that was 2 years back, but now it's Ministry of Education. Likewise, we have around 17 scientific line ministries who take charge of science and technology. So the government will be the one major stakeholder. Then who are the other stakeholders? The other stakeholders are the think tanks which are existing in the country. Like we have TIFAC, we have NISTADS, we have these centers for policy research, we have institutes like Research and Innovation System for Developing Country, RIS. So likewise, these are an autonomous and independent think tanks which are being created. They're also one of the stakeholders. Why they are one of the stakeholders? Because these are the one who are giving us informed studies. They are giving us the evidences. Yeah, these are the evidence. You do this and you make decisions based on these evidences. Then what are the other stakeholders we need if we are talking about science, technology, innovation ecosystem that is happening in academia also, that is happening in industry also? Then we need to have stakeholders from academia as well. All the HEIs, higher education institutes, be a central university, state university, or a private university or a deemed university, and institutes of national importance, they are all stakeholders for the policy making process. Then next come industry. Here we are talking about the whole national ecosystem. And as we compare to the other global countries like US, like South Korea, like China, where more than 70% of the contribution to science, technology, innovation comes from the industry. But the trend is exactly reversed in our country, where around 60% is from the government side and around 40% come from the industry side. So industry is also one of the major stakeholders. We need to take an input from them also, like what are the problems that they are facing, why they are not able to invest in STI, they do not have capacity, or they do not have a support, or they do not have a facilitative environment. So let's have a discussion on that from our industry stakeholder. So industry stakeholder is also one of the major stakeholder in policy making. Now, the next you see the country as a whole, the citizens of the country, because we are the one who are going to directly get impacted from the STI. When we talk about green revolution, when we talked about IT revolution, we all individuals were equally impacted from all of that. So green revolution led to the abundance of food in the country. Ultimately, it impacted and led to the growth of the citizens of the country. The IT revolution, we all are so IT savvy nowadays. It's all thanks to the IT revolution that came into our country. So citizens are also an equal part of a policy making process, because citizens are going to describe what are their aspirations from the science, technology and innovation ecosystem of a country. So by this image, we try to understand who are the major stakeholders of the policy making in our country. With this, let me move to the next slide. So this slide shows what is the process, how the STI policy or any policy, if we talk about, has to be formulated in our country. So it is divided into three major steps. First is forming of the committees. The committees will have an expert members who will lead to formulation of a tentative topics or thematic areas where a focus of a policy should lie. Then these committee members will consult with each other and with the other experts in the country, with the public as such. That is the second process of consultation. Then the third is when we have to get the final approval and from a cabinet, that's the highest office in our country, the prime minister office and the cabinet at the prime minister office. Then we seek the cabinet approval and then it is released to the public domain as an official policy. So let me run through a specific how an STI policy is made. Like as you see, the first one, DST. So DST is one of the core government department that is responsible for policy making in the country. So likewise, the allocation of a duties of every ministry and every department, we have an allocation of business rules, official document that was released by the government that specified. I'm sure the trainees who are joining us, they're from different organizations, different entities of government. So like suppose some is from ICMR, some of you are from ICAR. So you can always go back and look at a document that's an official document about the government allocation of business rules. So that is an official document where you can list down what are the core responsibilities of your particular entity or an organization you're working on. Like ICAR will have a list of activities or responsibilities that it has been laid with. So similarly, DST has a core responsibility of forming a policy for an India for science, technology and innovation ecosystem. So DST will start with the process of formulation of a policy. It will identify the national experts who will formulate the committee. So committee will have a chair who will head that particular committee and a co-chair who will assist the chair. Another would be the expert members and officials of that committee. And the committee that would be formulated, it would be a multi-stakeholder committee. It's not only that government people will come and sit, and experts from academia, like from IITs, from central universities, they will come and formulate the committee. From industry, they will come. From think tanks, we can come. And then recently we have seen like this policy really focused on how we are going to build a traditional knowledge ecosystem of a country. For that, we invited the participation from NGOs also, from the grassroots innovators also, because their say and what challenges they face, it's also very important. So that is the first process where we formulate the committee. Then the committee will carry out all the background research. What is the status of particular domain in India? Like suppose one of the committee is on startups, they will try to look how startups evolve and what kind of support is required for startups, what are kind of incentives that government can give. As we know, there are some tax benefits, tax holidays are there, but there are certain gaps also. Like once they have completed their 2-year incubation period in incubator, how they have to move to the market and how this shift has to be take place. There's certain challenges that the meeting experts will sit and discuss, and then they will come up with specific recommendation. So once these recommendations are found, then they will lead to consultations with other experts who are existing. Like the committee will be 10 core members who would be there, but now we are looking for the other experts from other universities, from other industries also. We will carry out number of consultations, and then based on those consultation, a final draft will come out. That final draft goes to all the ministries for their input, and it is also simultaneously released in the public domain. So why it is released in public domain? So public will go through the policy, they will judge whether it is satisfying their aspirations or not, what are their expectations and aspiration. They can always give a feedback to the government on that. For a period of 1 to 3 months, the policy is opened up, in which we receive the public comments on the policy. And similarly, in the same time, we receive comments from the ministries as well. And all these feedback that we receive, we review them, we prepare a final document for the policy, and then that final document is submitted to our cabinet. So cabinet is the highest office of the country, where prime minister and their committee for science and technology, like we know, PM stack is the scientific council members committee that is being formulated for PM to give them a scientific advice, that will sit, that will go through the policy, and it will evaluate, and based on that an approval will come from the cabinet, and then it is being released to the public as an official document that will design the strategy for and trajectory for science, technology, and innovation in the country. So this is how an STI policies are made so far. So so far, if I say, so there are 4 policies till date that India has had. After an independence, we were struggling with creating an institutional capacity in the country. And in 1958, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, in a written note, he formulated our scientific policy resolution. That is SPR 1958. That was in way back in 1958, where how you're going to build a science ecosystem. The focus one on building universities, building colleges, just to how to set up a science ecosystem in the country. So that was in first time in 1958 it was released. Then the second policy came back in 1983. That was a technology policy statement. As the name itself suggests, the focus from creating a science ecosystem moved towards developing technologies in the country, how we can use the science for the technological development. So now a new direction came in India, like from building a scientific ecosystem in the country, we need to also build a technological ecosystem in the country. We need to come up with new technologies, and that will satisfy the local, regional, and national problems. Then after 1983, in 2003, we came up with the next policy that was known as Science and Technology Policy, STP 2003. So here a new direction come, how we need to amalgamate science and technology together. Now, how science will lead to technology development in the country. That scientific stimulant technologies has to be there, R&D has to be there, advanced technological development based on some scientific revolution has to be there. So that was a new direction that came in our science technology and ecosystem in the country. Then the last policy, the previous one, 2013, it came as a science, technology, and innovation policy, where an innovation term was introduced to the science ecosystem of a country, where we say that science is used to make technology, and for that technology we need to create an innovation, and through the innovation we are going to bring the money back to the science. So innovation is mainly that goes to the market and it leads to its own application and economic benefits. That is how an innovation is termed in a policy. Something that is based on for science and technology, that has a market value and it has a local applications also. And then if you use science technology for generating economy for the country, that is the main agenda for 2013 policy. So bringing both like three of science, technology, and innovation together to enhance the STI ecosystem of a country. So that was the previous policies, the 4 policies that we had in our country. So just to understand what were the broad notion behind these policy, as I told you, the first policy, that was Science Policy Resolution in 1958, it was mainly focused on cultivating the culture of science in our country. For that, we started building up universities, building up CSIR, the National Institute, Research Institutes. So that was the major domain for the Science Policy Resolution. The second policy subsequent that come, technology policy, to how to bring technologies in our country and make our India self-reliant in that. That was the major notion. During this time, TIFEC came into being. The government set up the TIFEC Institute to give the directions for the technology development in the country. Then came the Science and Technology Policy in 2003, where science would be used for socio-economic development and developing of a technology in the country. So that was with Science and Technology Policy 2003. And finally 2013, where the inclusive development with science, technology, and innovation is promoted for economic development of the country. So these are the major STI policies that have been released in country, and now we stand up at the 5th National Science, Technology, and Innovation Policy, for which we need to understand why now we need an STI policy. So we started with the process of formulation of this new Science, Technology, and Innovation Policy in 2020, when India was facing an acute challenge of COVID-19 that made us realize that India is lacking in terms of indigenous technology development. And to do that, we are not able to utilize our resources. We are not able to set up priorities. Our healthcare system, it failed miserably. And there are certain other problems that COVID, the pandemic, has led out. What are the main problems that we are facing, for which Prime Minister gave a clarion call of having an Atmanirbhar Bharat, where we need to build from our resources only. And we need to focus on the grassroots level innovation, and specifically the frugal innovations, which we say, the affordable innovations that are being generated at village level, at school level. We need to give them an encouragement. We need to bring some disruptive change in our ecosystem to bring out the technology competitiveness. We need to connect the science and technology to innovation, to the industry, and more importantly, to the society. It should lead to the end user. And India, the progress that India has made, it's good. We are globally positioned 3rd, somewhere 9th, somewhere 4th, but we need a road further to walk on. And for that, we need to boost the science, technology, and innovation ecosystem. We need a rapid transformation. And for that, with this notion, we all sat together and decided to come up and roll out the new science, technology, and innovation policy. Now onwards, I will talk about exclusively on the STIP. What a STIP is, we call it Science, Technology, Innovation Policy. I will term it as a STIP, as a short form. The 5 features that are really very unique for this STIP, which was not present in the previous 4 policy, that this is actually a bottom-up policy. Like, we actually took an like inputs from every citizen of a country. Like, we use different ways by which we can take up the experts, as well as the common man experiences and expectation from science technology. It's decentralized. We have tried to create a decentralization process in this. It is being driven by the experts. Experts have identified what are the key challenges, and then we have seek the inputs. It's based on evidences. We have carried out the specific evidence-based studies, and it's inclusive. We have tried to address all the communities, all the groups without any bias in our STEP policy. So with this, I'll come to a 4-track formulation process for STEP. So this STEP, this policy is being carried out into 4 tracks. The first track in which we carried out extended public and expert consultation. We rolled out STEP to the public via different means like open letters, by radio, by carrying out certain live sessions on YouTube, Doordarshan and all, so that people get aware that India is coming up with new science, technology, innovation policy, and what we can give back to the government in terms of like school children. Like we got a very good input from set of school children who said that we don't have exciting science museum in our country. So it really stuck to us. We have never like modernized, or we have never popularized science in our country like anything. We have wonders like Aryabhatta, we have wonderful like people like Raman in our country. How can we popularize? How can we create a specific science museum in a country? These are certain examples that I'm sharing with you. So that was all about track 1, where we were coming in contact with the public, with the journal public, and try to understand what are their expectations from science. And then in track 2 was the base of the policy, in which the expert from the nation and from international also, they all joined us to identify what are the key challenges, what are the key gaps, and which are the key areas where we need to focus on. Then there was a track 3. Once we had done with the first draft after track 1 and track 2, we circulated to all the ministries and all the states. For the very first time, the state governments were also associated with the formulation of a policy. We try to get inputs from them, like why we carried out with the state, like we send it to Ladakh. So Ladakh, it said that we don't have any kind of science, technology, and innovation system because we are newly developed administration, and we have only one university. How we will improve our STI? So they're the key challenges that states came up with. Like for Rajasthan, we came to know that they do not have a technological support group with them. So they urge center government to provide a technological Okay, so after track 3 is the last track 4, where an apex level multi-stakeholder committee set up. They approve the committee, and then it is finally rolled to our cabinet approval. So this is how this tip worked out. We worked for track 1, track 2, track 3, and track 4, and we completed this whole process in nearly 1 year. Not even 1 year, less than 1 year. Thanks to the COVID, that gave us an opportunity to connect with loads of people online. Like if physically we were doing meeting, it would be really very tough. But online, we try to capture maximum of the experts and maximum of the people to get inputs on the policy. So this is track wise. I'll just explain why this process is very unique. So this was the first track that we talked extensively with public and experts. Like as you can see, there were 6 different processes that we used in formulation of a technology. The first is in conversation with. In conversation with, we sat one-to-one candid discussion with the experts, where we candidly talked about what do you think, how science is working. And like I remember for one of the in conversation with Shekhar Mande, Dr. Mande, like he's a director general of CSIR. I'm sure you all must be knowing. So we were having an in conversation with Dr. Mande, and we were having a candid discussion, not a serious formal talk, but a candid discussion. These were all streamed live on YouTube. You still can go to Science Policy Forum, and on Science Policy Forum, if you click, you will get number of events that we have carried out. And like I was just telling, so I asked him, how you think Himachal can do good in science, technology, and innovation ecosystem, how northern people can get benefit from them. Then very surprisingly, he told they are producing some of the seeds, they are producing some of the biomaterials that they are circulating to the public. The general public can come and they can take from that research institute lab, and other research institutes should be aware of that. So such processes are working. So we were having candid discussions with number of experts. You can get all the in conversations that we have with the national experts in the country, what they feel, how science should work, how technology should work. Like we had one of the conversation with our former DBT chair, uh, director, uh, Renu Swaroop. She said that as a woman, she has faced loads of challenges coming to the leadership positions. So, what kind of an environment should be given to women to come to a leadership position? So, she has candidly discussed what challenges she faced at the family level, at the professional level, and how she has come over all of them. So, this was the idea. We want to have a candid discussion with them. Then the second is across the table, 4 to 5 experts sit down and they were discussing on science, technology, and innovation under different thematic areas. And then it was open for, like, it was live, and then we were taking input from the public, and then the experts were answering all those questions. It was very exciting panel discussion. Then policy compass, that we rolled out, that this is the policy, you tell us what you want to have in policy compass. It's a kind of quiz that we just open for the public. Then open letter in any language you want to write back to us. So language is one of the barrier in science, technology, and innovation system. So we try to remove that language as a barrier. It's not English, you need to not to write in English. I'm from Punjab, I can write in Punjabi and I can submit it to government. What are my aspirations from the science ecosystem in the country? So we had local languages experts with us who tried to analyze what were the expectations from the general public. Then for Thoughts for India, we went to community radio station, to the end mile connectivity, to the villages. We try to reach through the community, try to explain what is this policy, how can you give your inputs to the policy. Then Ideathon was something like in a drawing or a cartoon form. You can give us any of your idea that you wish to have. Like school children, they created a kind of a satellites reaching to the moon, settling down in moon. So these were the certain aspirations that we come to know that what people are feeling like. And then you all can go through and understand more about these. We have a fabulous discussions with the experts and what all thoughts come during these discussions on our Science Policy Forum website. So this all I have explained you. These were the ways that how we have entangled. Similarly, if you all will try to make some policy at your organization level, so these are few mechanisms that you can use to get more of an public opinion on the specific topic. Then this was the track 2, that was the backbone of this current policy. So these are the certain group, these are the 21 groups that we first decided where we need to work. So like we need to understand the research ecosystem, education ecosystem, how entrepreneurship work, how financing work, what is mega science, how we develop S&T engagements with the other countries, how this science is governed in India, what kind of strategic technologies are there, what are the agriculture challenges, health challenges, environment challenges, and how we need to focus on equity and inclusion, women, gender biases to be removed, how we need to provide access to knowledge and resources. So these were the 21 core groups that were formed. And for all these 21 groups, 21 committees were formed of around 6 to 7 national level experts. And it was a balanced stakeholder representation where the committee members from the government, from academia, from industry, from the experience to the young who joined this committee. So a kind of a balanced approach where we get a balanced opinion from our expert committee members. And we gave them 1 month to carry out exclusive meetings one-on-one, and then come up with a 3-pager recommendation how to improve the research ecosystem in our country, how to improve education, innovation. So this is how we carried out 21 thematic group consultation, and finally once we got the 3-pager from these 21 groups, we stitched them like the recommendation that were present in research. Like one of the recommendation that we need to enhance public private partnership, or we need to enhance industry academy engagement. So when we came to the system interconnectedness group, one of the major area where they were focusing on was how to connect the industry and academia and other stakeholders in the ecosystem. So all those repetitive recommendations, they were stitched together and we came out with one complete document. So that document was then circulated to all ministries and to all state governments. So these are the happy faces when we were having discussion. This whole process happened online. There were no physical meeting, only online meeting. So these are happy faces after we had a discussion how states can come forward, how ministries can come forward. So there's loads of gap between ministries and ministries also. So how we can build those gaps. So these were the main discussions that happened with ministries and state consultation. And then came the track 4, where an epics level committee was formulated. The highest committee was formulated that went through the policy and then specified what are the still challenges which are remain and what are the key policy priorities that we need to focus on. Based on that, we did a final revision of our policy document, and there were certain other consultation like specific topics we wanted put, like we have a in conversation series with our that time Minister for Science and Technology, Dr. Harshvardhan, where he stressed up on we need to create more Nobel laureates in our country. Only by saying Nobel laureates from India will not come. We need to build that ecosystem. We need to build that incentivization mechanism. We need to rope in more of these school children to take up science, not going after money, but take up science and do wonders in science to create an environment for them. So these were the certain specific parameters then come up. Then we talked to different state, like some of the states, they said that in their local language, they are not able to communicate science. So how can we improve science communication in the states? Then a very important discussion we had with our Indian diaspora, our Indian experts who are sitting somewhere outside India and they are doing wonders there, and how they can give an expert and advice to our Indian ecosystem. So we had experts from US, from Singapore, from Australia, and it was wonderful how keen they were to give back what India can learn from their experiences. So these were kind of pre-draft, like before the draft came out. So these were the consultations that we had with them. And there were other consultation also with scholars, exclusively invited young scholars to come and discuss what is the research problem. Like when I was a researcher, I used to never get my grant on time. So that was one of the demotivating factor. Ek saal ke baad grant aa rahi hai. And like you get loads of like demotivation with that. So these were the problems that young researchers, they came forward. They are not able to get the mentor support, or the mentor-mentee relationship is not good. We are feel like for one of the consultation, it was like my PhD gives me so much of a pressure. Sometimes I feel like committing suicide. So that was one of the researcher that gave us this input, and it was really heartbreaking. Like why they feel so much of stress, how we can soothe up things for them so they can have a full focus on doing their PhD and whatever topic they are working on. So then we had a separate consultation with our Indian Science Com. So the science communication is a very new field. Isse pehle what we know that there were like certain articles that come in newspaper on science some of the time, not every time, every Sunday doesn't come, Saturday, Sunday, but for some like once in a month it comes. So now we need to build a formal mechanism of reporting science in India, how we promote science through newspaper, through magazines, through radio. For that we need to bring a new field, that is science communication in our country. So this is how the consultations happen, and we had an exclusive chapter of science communication in our draft also. So finally, draft was like after 7 to 8 months of exclusive online consultations and discussion, we came up with the fifth National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy draft. Still, it is at the draft position. It is lying with the cabinet. We are seeking cabinet approval, and then it would be released. So this was released for public, where you all can go read. It's still online. You all can go and read the policy. It has number of aspiration and visionary policy recommendation. And then we invited whatever comment you have, whatever input you want to give, just write directly to us. And we gave our email ID, and we received nearly 11,000 inputs from all over India in different languages itself also. So it was a very good experience, quite hectic, but good experience to come to know what people feel about science, technology, and innovation. So once the policy was rolled out, then we also try to reach to the maximum people by carrying out post-draft consultations, that we like had a media consultations where media helped us to reach out to the public to understand how STIP is working and are people satisfied or not, how we are going to do ease of doing science in India. So specific topics were taken and we carried out post-draft consultations. So just to give you an idea, these were the stakeholders which we consulted during the policy formulation process. They were research students, young scientists, government, representatives from our line ministries. Many of the VCs, they directly joined us. We created a specific position, the representative from each university as a campus ambassador for STIP. It was very exciting. So that campus ambassador like identified how a STIP would be popularized in their own campus, in their own institute, and how they only collected the inputs from their campus and give back to us. And then we have given them as a special reward as a campus ambassador tag to them as their contribution to the STIP process. Then we consulted various industries, various industrial associations, various NGOs, diasporas, participants all over the track one that I discussed. So there were a huge set of stakeholders that we consulted. And you would be really amazed to see how many consultations we have had. We nearly had 300 rounds of consultation in nearly 7 to 8 months, and we tried to reach up to 9,000 people who actually participated in those consultation in track 1 process. Like Vijnana Bharati, it's one of the key in Hindi science communication stream that has been started from university, colleges, from states. We had nearly 9,000 people who directly contributed to it. Then like 34,000, they participated in the 6 broad activities like sending open letter, thoughts via radio, by logging on to our YouTube live channels and live discussion. So it was great to have such a huge participation. Then we carried out a policy quiz also for our school children, for our young researchers, where 95,000 of them participated. And we received nearly 1 lakh suggestions and ideas over email, over radio. So it was really great that a huge consultations were carried out for this thing. And our team that specifically worked to chalk out the key recommendations which should feed into the policy draft. So the key highlights of consultation, as I already stressed, like how intense it was. It was in fact the first largest, widest, quickest, and most intense exercise that has been carried out in any policy formulation in the country. This is first ever policy that for the very first time included states and Indian diaspora for the formulation of a policy. It's a very well distributed, like in terms of age, in terms of gender, in terms of economic status, and in terms of region. We had equal participation from the northeastern part, the northern part, for the participation for this policy making. So you would be really amazed, like the team that lead to formulation of the policy, we were 70% of the team is female. We all working as a fellows. We contributed to the policy making. So 40% is at the level of committees that were formulated. We gave an extensive pressure on that we need to have women on board with us, and the team that formulated that was dominated by women, and we have a good mix of young and experienced research. That the inputs that we have got from our public for this step process, we got an input, a letter from an 80-year-old man also, and from a 10-year-old girl also. So this is how there is a diversity that we have included in the whole process. So now come to the technical viewpoint of an STI policy. So this draft is open to the public. This is present at the STI website, Office of Principal Scientific website, a government website. You all can go through them. You can read. I'll just give you like I'm only left with around 10 to 15 minutes, I guess. So I'll just give you a glimpse what all these topics are. What are the key recommendations?
Dr. Radhika, if I may interrupt, this is Gaurav this side.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you have sufficient time till 11:40, 11:35, 11:40. You can please go ahead. Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
If somebody have a question, so I can keep 15 minutes for questions and like for a discussion.
Surely, ma'am, surely.
I'll
As per your wish, ma'am.
20 minutes. All right. Okay.
Perfectly fine, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. So now let's discuss about the technicality that is associated with this policy document as such. So the whole policy document revolves around these 11 chapters. We have core 11 chapters. These are the core themes that are being formulated for science, technology, and innovation. So we have an exclusive discussion among ourselves, experts, about with the public, and then we came down to the 11 key topics that we need to focus, starting with open science. We need to create an open science movement in India. Like as a researcher, I should not complain. I don't have kind of access to that research paper. That is a kind of an hindrance for my work. So we need to come up with an open science movement in our country, how we can produce. And you all must be knowing that government is really pitching very hard for creating a one nation, one subscription, that India has a one subscription of applying to that particular journal, where there is no bias. One of my friends is in IIT, they have an access to that journal, but I, being in a state university, I don't have access to that journal. So that the key problem that researchers face that can be removed. And other than open science, we bring science to the public so that everyone can use that science. Then we talked about capacity development, how we need to generate the capacity for science in India in terms of creating a human resource and institutional capacity also. Then in financing, we talked about, we said that private sector is not investing a lot in STI, and then we do not have that good GERD ratio, gross expenditure in R&D. So there are certain recommendations how we strengthen the financial ecosystem. Then about the research, how we are going to improve research ethics, research quality, research for people, by people, then innovation and entrepreneurship, how can we bring grassroots. So topic by topic, I'll just share what are the key recommendations that the policy is suggesting. We can directly move ahead. So this is an open science. So open science is talking about giving access to knowledge and resources. So it's not only about the publication, but this is more about the knowledge and the resources which are being available. So everybody gets access to that. So the key recommendation is that first is that we're saying that we need to create a national STI observatory where all kinds of data is existing, be it a research data or a metadata. So that if I have to locate something, I can go to that national STI observatory and get that data, where in India, we have a very fragmented data that is presenting in our country. We need to come over that. Then we are trying to create an Indian science and technology archive of research. Like we started with the Insta, we have promoting that we need to have an Indian archives of all the research where we will get all the manuscript research data, supplementary information. Already this has been available in bits and parts. There is no formalized one national structure. We are trying to pitch for that. When we are saying that we need to have an open data policy, wherever you publish your research, you need to put down to your funding agency also and keep it as an open data that anyone can read that. Don't keep it as a closed data, be it an open data. We are pitching for an open data policy for every, like we get, as a researcher, we get grants from DBT, DST, CSIR, then how they make it a mandatory protocol for the researchers to have an open data. Then we are promoting open access, and then, as I talked about, one nation, one subscription policy, in which as a one nation we will subscribe that particular journal, and everyone in that nation can get benefit from that subscription. So the second chapter, it focused on developing the capacity in terms of human resource development, in terms of educational capacity, how a digitalization, COVID has brought up that how digital education can evolve. So how digital tools can be built, and what are the kind of technical and vocational skills that we need to develop. And for that, we need to generate the capacity. And there were certain key recommendations that we need to have an exclusive research excellence framework for HEI. It should not be like, many times we say that the kind of a research evaluation that happened at IIT is quite strict as compared to that happened in my university. Why? So we need to have a one concrete research excellence framework, not that strict or not that competitive, but still a one on which the whole education ecosystem can be judged. Then we focus on creation of an engaged universities, in which we need to have community on a board with us, where people come and tell us we are facing these problems, and then the scientific departments work on those relevant problems, and we create a concept of engaged universities. We need to build the community participation. And then we need to have exclusive innovation and entrepreneurship centers in every university, in every region, to promote the collaborative approach where academia, institute, MSME, startups, they all can work together on novel problems. Then we are trying to pitch for collaborative research centers. Some of the universities, they do have, like Amity has a collaborative research centers. They are very aggressive towards having a collaboration with industry. But when we talk about to other universities, they don't have any industry academia cell, any IP cell or technology transfer cell. So we need to give them that support mechanism or a policy directive that such centers should be created. We need to transfer our existing R&D institutions to research universities. This is one of the key ideas that is being projected by Dr. Jitendra Singh, our current Minister for Science and Technology, that we need to build core research universities where the linkages with all the stakeholders for effective utilization of research infrastructure and resources to deliver a research-oriented technology has to be there. Then we are talking about creating a good infrastructure through sophisticated analytical infrastructure options in universities, where they are exposed, the researchers, they are exposed to high-end instrumentations required for their research. So we need to build the capacity for research in India. Then there's another exciting chapter in the policy on which I personally worked on, was how financials of an STI would be governed. What are the resources, how these resources have to be managed, and how a good financial governance can happen in the country. Like first of all, the recommendations that we have structured is on expansion of the STI funding landscape. Now we are pitching that every institute, every unit in the India, be it a government, be it an academic, be it a private sector, be a startup, they should have a small STI unit that should talk about science, technology, and innovation, and a minimum earmark budget should be there so that they work for STI activity and socio-economic conditions, taking STI to the socio-economic relevance conditions of all the citizens of or their region. So every state, like some of the states, they are doing well in terms of science, technology, innovation. Some of them are not. So we are pitching on that every state should have an earmark budget for STI related activity. Then number of MNCs have come and set up, they're utilizing the resources. We should take something back from them also. They are giving training to our local people, they are hiring our local people, but how can they contribute to the development of an ecosystem as such? So we have few recommendations for having a strengthening tie-ups with MNCs who are working in India. Then the next is about how we can have private sectors on board with us, and for that we are uh, giving a strong recommendation how we can incentivize the STI investments. Just give me 1 minute. All right. So next we move to incentivization for STI investments, in which we talked about what kind of fiscal incentives, like we gave direct tax incentives for industry to take part in science, technology, innovation. We had an exclusive tax schemes for an industry, but over the time in 2020, these schemes were like quite reduced. They were almost like we started with 200% tax deduction, but we are now at only 100% tax deduction. Can we give extra tax incentives to industry? Let's see for those opportunity. Can we give direct support to industry? The government as such cannot directly give 100% support to the private sector in the country. For that, can we have some other innovation grant mechanism, some risk guarantee schemes that we can provide to the industrial sector or not? Then how we can govern. For the governance purpose, for key strategic areas, we are pitching for formulation of an STI development bank, where commercial ventures, startups, technology diffusers and licenses can be created and can be facilitated by the government. And then there's another, as I mentioned, that we cannot 100% fund the industry sector. For that, we are saying that we can have modification of general financial rules for the country. So this is about the financing STI. If you will all go through the whole document, you will get many other key recommendations that are presenting there. So this is about the research. What are the key priority issues we are facing, and what are the key suggestive outcomes that we will like to incorporate to improve the research ecosystem in the country? So here we are talking about having a joint appointments across government, academy and industry at both national and international level, that we should have mix of both industry and academic unit to lead to the like course of this curriculum to be led by the both industry professional and the academic that are sitting there. The research should be focused more towards our rural problems that we are facing for having a fast track development of the country. Then the public funding research is largely invisible to the target stakeholders such as line ministries. So there is a huge gap between the ministries and the departments. They are not often aware of that. How can we bridge that gap? We are focusing on that. So research should be interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary. Then very important, we should bring up ease of doing research. If I have to do research in this country, I need to come out of the administrative burden that we all face. We need to have strong digital and e-governance platforms for that. We need to have an access of the data that has to be utilized by the researchers, and we need to create a benchmarks. We don't have any kind of a benchmark for ease of doing research in the country. We can develop those benchmarks and we can circulate to all the universities and the organizations which are performing research. Then the another interesting chapter that we have is on entirely discussing about the innovation and entrepreneurship engagement in the country. So this shows about the innovation. So how we are going to strengthen the national innovation ecosystem, what kind of an engagements we require, what kind of specific schemes are being required, how we are going to promote the translational research ecosystem where an innovation comes, like the basic research that and applied research performed in the university, how it can be turned into an innovation. So what kind of schemes are required? We need to discuss on that. And then for entrepreneurship, what kind of ease of doing business has to be brought in, how an incubator engagement has to be enhanced. All these things we talked about in our innovation and entrepreneurship chapters, with the key focus on having a traditional knowledge system being strengthened in India. There is vast information that is available with our traditional communities, how we can create a formalized institutional architecture for them, giving them their due benefit and taking a kind of an application process from our traditional knowledge system. Then how can we collaborate with our innovators and scientists, how they can be supported, like grassroots innovators, they are not that well acclaimed towards the IP thing. So how can we assist them, and how we can help them to claim their IPRs? And then it's very important that we should formulate a strong entrepreneurship culture in our country. We already are doing that magnificent initiatives like Startup India, Stand Up India. Many of the ministries are running their startup program. We are talking about one step further, having a virtual incubator. We are saying that virtually we will connect them to the experts all over the country, and then there would be theme-based virtual incubators that we set up. Like I'm from a biotechnology field. If sitting in Chandigarh, I have to connect to somebody in Bangalore. So these virtual incubators and accelerators can be a good starting point for me. So this way we have incorporated recommendation. Then the second, the chapter 6 that talks about the technology development in India, how you will develop a technology in India, focusing on how to develop disruptive and futuristic technologies, strategic technologies, sustainable technologies in India. So for that, for indigenous technology development, we need to bring resources on the board. We need to have good resource pool. We need to have good technology pool, good infrastructure with us, and good kind of a collaboration with the industry to take it forward. And one concept is indigenous development of technology. Just try to understand that if we use the resources, we use the capacity in India to create some technology out of it, that is indigenous development of technology. The second black heading that you see, technology indigenization, that any import technology that we get from another country, we try to adapt it according to our Indian needs. So that is technology indigenization in Indian context. It's not that every time we have to buy these import technology. Let's take it once and then let us adapt it according to our needs and requirements. So that capacity has to be generated in India, that is will lead to technology indigenization. Then we need to have a good push for sustainable technology development also in the country. So with sustainable also, we need to focus on having a strategic technologies in our country. For that, we would be creating a strategic technology board that will assist in all the strategic sectors, like defense is there, will come under that. All those departments and units which are strategically very important for the country, they fall under the group of strategic technologies. For that, we will create a specific
Yeah, Dr. Radhika, I would request kindly unmute your mic by mistake. Yeah.
Okay.
Now it is audible.
All right, great. So for strategic technology, we will have strategic technology board and the fund that will lead to formulation of these strategic technologies. And like for many ISRO technologies, like for Chandrayaan, for Mangalyaan, there were many small technologies that were associated. How can these technologies be available in a public domain? A kind of a process is known as spin-off technologies that is exclusively for civilian use. How we can get that? So that is also one of the key area where the policy is working. That should not go waste and it should be utilized. Like the guiding system that actually satellites use, that is also used by our defense personnel for tracking the movement of the other nationals across the border. So this is one of the key applications that we have tried to focus on. Then another very interesting chapter is on equity and inclusion. So by equity and inclusion, we mean that we provide equal opportunities to everyone in the country and no gender bias, no age bias, no experience bias. We'll try to give them an equal opportunities and include them in the whole ecosystem. So that is what an equity and inclusion signifies here. And here we are trying to mainstream the equity and inclusion to remove any kind of biases or discriminations that we have on based on gender, on caste, on geography, on language, any disability. We try to remove all those discrimination and bring them inclusively in STI ecosystem, like giving an equal opportunity to women from remote and rural areas. We are strongly projecting that women should be 30% of the representation in any scientific department. It is being required. We need to create more leadership positions from them. We're also saying that for LGBTQ community also, we need to come forward and give them opportunities. They should not face any kind of a gender bias while they in their science, technology and innovation career. And any differently able individuals, like the people who have lost their sight, a kind of a special intention should be given to them, and how science can facilitate them and how they can stimulate to contribute back to the science ecosystem in the country. So another is how we can focus on recruitment, retention and promotion. Like there's a very exciting opportunity that the policy is suggesting, that dual recruitment policy, where husband and wife can together, the couple can together apply to a particular institute, and then the challenge of one person staying somewhere else and one person staying somewhere else. So kind of a dual recruitment policy can be a very effective norm for them. Then we are trying to create an institutional mechanism to promote women and promote equity and inclusion as such. So already Department of Science and Technology has certain programs which are dedicated to women who had a career break, like if somebody took a maternity leave and they have to come back to a research field. So what all problems they face and how well they can come back to the system, and institutional mechanism can be developed. DST has come up with an implementation plan for this with the Gati program. That is a kind of an institutional support that would be provided to the women in the institutes, universities and industry to come back after a career break. They can come back and like start their career in science. So another topic that was this is the chapter that actually came, like when we talked about 21 thematic groups as a backbone for our policy. So we didn't discuss anything about science communication, but this thing comes when a couple of science reporters, they urged us with the public consultation that you should have a formal mechanism for science communication and how science we deal with the public. So you need to have a specific chapter. Based on their request, we worked on it, and then we come up with a specific chapter on science communication. We focused on how to build science communication. There are no formal program or courses on science communication. Let's promote those programs. Let's create a kind of a repository for science communication in the country, and where they can come, they can study science communication, they can train themselves with that. And how we can outreach the science to the public. For that, DST has come up with an exciting policy, that is scientific social responsibility. Like if I am a scientist at particular research institute, I have a mandatory obligation to serve the public. Like whatever science or technology or innovation I have studied or I have gone through in my employment in that particular organization, I will try to give 1% of that to the general public free of cost. So that is scientific social responsibility that we give to them. Then we are strongly proposing that every institute, every organization should have a science communication wing. Like if Amity University have a science communication wing, that will talk about what are the innovation excellences, what is the kind of an R&D development that Amity has, and it will communicate to the public. So mandatory such media centers, like we saw that magnificent video about the Amity University in the beginning of this talk for today. So that is what this is, communicating to the public. And when you communicate specifically science to the public, it comes under domain of science communication. So this is another topic where we talked about international STI engagements, that it's very important for India to take a stand and create its position on an international forum. Like India's positioning in COP26 that we have all seen, it's strongly projected what are the climate change action plan that India is coming forward. So similarly, India need to bring out its visibility on international domain. And for that, we need to engage the diaspora. We need to, like, if they are settled there, we still can take from them through the brain circulation. They can circulate their ideas, their experience back to the brain. There should be proper channels with which we can contribute, like take contribution from them. And then we need to a new field that is coming up, that's a science diplomacy, STI diplomacy, where we are focusing on that 5 to 6 countries, they work together to address the global problems. That's what COP26 has appreciated Indian effort. Like India came up with the Indian Solar Alliance, International Solar Alliance, sorry. So that is a brainchild of India. So what we have done, we have like using science diplomacy to spread the awareness about the solar power. And India has shown a magnificent improvement in terms of creating solar cities hub in the whole India, and how they can be well utilized. We are communicating it to the other countries also, and nearly 98 countries have been signatories to this international Solar Alliance. This example is very good. I'll highly recommend you all to go through and a website of International Solar Alliance, and you really feel proud how India has taken a lead in that. So the last two chapters, it talks about the governance aspects, how we are going to govern STI in our country. And for that, first of all, we need to have a kind of a dedicated mechanism where within the sectors, within the ministries, there should be coordination and a kind of an interministerial work can be carried out. Similarly, we need to have a kind of a connect with the state governments also to assist states to strengthen their STI ecosystem. Then we are pitching for creation of a robust research and innovation governance, for which the National Research Foundation, that is highlighted in our national education policy also, it will play a role in creating a suitable metrics on which a research would be evaluated, how and recruitments would be happen, and how capacity would be developed in field of research. Then, and this is the most demanded chapter from the policy researchers who are working in this domain, that we should have a dedicated focus on governing how STI policy would be formulated in the country. The formulation process that I shared with you all. So how that would be governed? So is there any institutional capacity? As such, we have these centers for policy research. We do not have National Center for Policy Research. National Institute is not there. So we need to focus on that, to creating an STI policy institute in India, how data can be fed into it, how and informed policy decisions can be taken. We do not have any formalized channel in India till now, but this policy is pitching to create this science advice mechanism in the country. Based on the research that we have carried out, we need to build a kind of a core system where evidences come directly to the policymakers, to these government officials who take decisions based on that. And with this, I come to almost the last slide, in which I will describe what is the overall vision, what is the bigger vision of this policy. It is that we aspire ourselves to be a part of top 3 scientific superpowers in the world in decade to come. If we aspire that, if we work hard on that, we will try to climb to our scientific super prowessness, and we hope for that. And for this, we need to revamp the whole STI ecosystem. The innovation ecosystem that we have in India, we have to focus towards the people centric. We need to focus on our local problems, on our regional problems, on our national problems, and we need to attract the youth. We need to nurture them youth and then strengthen their ability to participate in science, technology, and innovation system. At any point, being in science, we should not feel that we do not have any opportunity. We need to attract this science ecosystem.
एक बार उनका सीवी जरूर लेकर रख लो.
अच्छा ठीक है.
Okay. As I talked about, the core problems that we are facing, low number of full-time equivalents working in India as a researcher, and low participation of gross domestic expenditure and R&D. For that, we are aspiring in next 5 years, we have to bring it. We have to double these number. And then the last came from our that time Minister for Science and Technology, that we need to build individual and institutional excellence in science, technology, and innovation ecosystem, so that we bring the highest level of global recognition and awards in decade to come to India, to give a credit to India that an Indian national has done this thing, and we build an individual capacity for that as well as an institutional capacity for the same. So these are the two new mechanisms that I want to share, that we are coming up with center state coordination mechanism. Then we are trying to coordinate with ministries. CSIR is taking lead in this, and then we are focusing on interdepartmental coordination also. And here I would like to bring to everyone, your organization can equally contribute to this, like from wherever state you are, from wherever ministry you are. So you can always be in touch with you. I can be in a nodal point of contact for getting your connections with the DST, and how we can bring a collaborative environment. It would be a good opportunity for networking and bringing all of them in one single platform. And similarly, if MITI goes for having a center of excellence or a satellite center, they can equally contribute to study the state coordination mechanism, ministerial coordination mechanism, and we really look forward to participation from you all for same. With this, I come to end of my presentation. This is the core team that participated and led to the formulation of STIP. We are the young fellows, senior policy fellows, postdoctoral fellows, and policy professionals. We all work. Unfortunately, one of the member, he's come to the COVID. We are really sorry for that, but the whole team is aggressively working in various other domains. Like I'm working in public-private partnerships, somebody is working on sustainable technologies, and we have a huge network of policy research in country, and will love to interact with you all and get inputs from everyone on the same. So yeah, with this, I end my presentation. So if time permits, everyone can go back and they can work on this exercise, how they can formulate a policy for their organization or institute from which you are working. It can be any policy. Like suppose if somebody is from CSIR, they can formulate a startup policy for their organization, in which what are the steps that you need to formulate. You first need to identify need. If you're from CSIR, why you need to build startup ecosystem from CSIR, you need to identify that need, who will take the responsibility, who will gather their information, who will draft the policy. You need to identify all these things, and then you can come up for startup policy. Like being in my institute, I would like to have an equity and inclusion policy or a gender policy. So what are the steps I can take? So this is an exercise you can take up. You can take a lead in that, and you can formulate a policy at your institute, your organization. So with this, I end my presentation with you all. Yeah, so I will love to have an interaction with you all. Any confusion, any kind of input or comment or suggestion you want to give on the policy perspective, I really welcome you all for that.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Dr. Radhika, for your valuable presentation and your valuable time with us. So we have few questions in the chat box. Dr. Ramakrishnan, you may kindly like to interact with her directly, or shall I? You want to interact with her, please. You are not audible. I would like to, yes. Ma'am, thank you. Nice presentation. My question is, have you DST any idea for provide TB, HIV disabled population aid or scientific support or technical collaboration? This is a question from Dr. Ramakrishnan. You may kindly like to comment on this.
Yeah, hello Ramakrishnan. Nice to have the comment from you. Yeah, definitely. DST as such do not have a dedicated program for this because this falls under ambit of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So they have a dedicated program. But with the Nidhi support scheme that DST has, there are certain kind of a seed support that is provided to the entrepreneurs who are working in this field and trying to bring out some medical diagnostics or kind of a medical solutions for these things. And under the COVID program only, a Kavach, a kind of a center is being created by DST that is also assisting and providing a facilitative support for health research in the country. But the core dedicated program is not there. But I'm aware that Ministry of Health and Family Welfare have, and there are certain PPP initiatives also been started by government to eradicate, like TB eradication program. Then it's a kind of a PPP program that has been started under Ayushman Bharat also. So yeah, and that is one good you asked this question. So this is how we can interlink. DST is one of the main like grant providing organization in the country, and if they are not catering to all the sectors equally, then like what is the future? So we say that it's not our domain, it's a domain of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So why not DST collaborate with Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and then have a dedicated program on this thing? And this is one of the key projections we are hoping to have an interministerial coordination for having a good kind of a facilitative support or a funding mechanism for the key issues that India is facing. Yeah. Thank you,
You mentioned,
Ramakrishnan.
yeah, you mentioned about the Nidhi scheme. I have noted this point. Now we have another question from Dr. Rohit Kumar. Thank you, ma'am, for very informative talk. My question is, recruitment process of scientists very slow. Sometimes it takes 3 to 4 years. Such a long time demotivate the persons who should. This is not related to you, but I would request if you may kindly like to comment on this. What do you think about this?
Yeah, thank you so much, Rohit. So this is the one of the key thing that we all have faced. It's not only scientists who have faced. As a researcher, when I was applying for my PhD, I also faced. There were like so many problems that come up, and specifically problem that you have addressed about the recruitment. You're absolutely right. When we were having discussion with our scientific diaspora people, they said कि madam वहाँ पे तो कुछ होता ही नहीं है, मतलब what opportunities we are getting here and what kind of a support we are getting here in terms of an employment and what all employment benefits we are getting, we cannot expect that in India. Some of the private organizations, they are giving good, but in government scenario it's a very slow process, as you rightly pointed, and it's a very cumbersome process. First you give test and then there is rounds of interview, then after 3 months you get a call. So that is why we are pitching how we are going to improve the ecosystem in a country. For that, we need to enhance the governance aspect. In the 10th chapter that I mentioned about the STI governance, that talks all about how we are going to do an administration facilitation for the people who are doing science, technology, and innovation in the country. I hope so. There is a change that will come in a country, and we all get double motivation to be a part of an STI ecosystem in country.
Yeah, thank you so much for your encouraging and motivational words. And here's another question. What is the government doing to encourage the people of small villages to take science as a career provider?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. You remember that the chapter 6 I talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, it was all about how we are going to reach to the communities which are left behind. And at present, like DST only has started a program known as Science and Technology Councils in every state. So like you all can check for your state, like for Punjab there is a council, for Haryana there is a council, for almost every state there is a Science and Technology Innovation Council, and their main program is to reach the rural people, to aware them what science is all about, what are the opportunities that are available. And there are certain schemes which are available for the marginalized people who are not able to get that much opportunity in their life, but there are certain schemes they can avail and they can get direct benefit and take up the research or a science as a career.
So I would like to propose the final vote of thanks to you, because we are running time, Dr. Radhika. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time with us today. And your presentation was very engaging as always and very thoughtful. And the way you covered all the 11 chapters of STI policy in the limited time period is commendable. And I hope our participants also have enjoyed the session, and looking forward to have more such sessions with you, madam. And we will look forward to hear more about these satellite centers and the CPR centers with you. And we'll be again inviting you, ma'am, under the directions of Dr. Rajiv Sharma and guidance of Sir. We'll be again inviting you for such sessions. Thank you so much, madam, for joining us today.